It is time for the Cincinnati Reds to be buyers. We're going to tell you why on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. My name is Jeff Carr. His name is Steve Offenbaker, and we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans that have been podcasting about this team for a combined 14 seasons, and we're glad that you're alongside us here today. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. And on today's show, we are going to have a little bit of fun later on. This is a Saturday show, something we don't typically do, but because of the holiday week and things like that, it's kind of thrown us off a bit. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to power rank stadium foods. I'm going to tell you why Frybox is unseated for me. That's coming up later on in the show. In a few minutes, we'll discuss yet another IL stint for Austin Hays and what that means for the Reds' cleanup spot in the batting order. But I want to begin with why the Reds should be buyers, Steve. And everydayers will know, and everyone has kind of been asking me if I'm okay, because here recently we've been a little critical and we've been a little, I wouldn't say negative, I'd say realistic, but for us, that's like negative. And quite frankly, I still think that there's plenty of juice left in this ball club, and I think that they should be buyers. And we'll tell you why on today's episode that's brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet that wins. All right, Steve, we ain't selling.
No, I mean, first off, you would have to define what that means. And looking around this roster, selling is a very specific couple of players because they're not going to rebuild. We kind of stumbled into this territory the other day when we touched on this. A total rebuild, a total blow it up isn't really possible because there's so many young guys with so much team control. It doesn't make sense to start flipping those guys for other young guys that are on their rookie deals. You're talking about Austin Hays. If you can get him healthy and keep him healthy, that would be a trade piece. You're talking about Nick Martinez. You're talking about Brady Singer. And maybe you're talking about Jose Trevino if somebody's desperate for a catcher and has their starting catcher get hurt, you can maybe flip him. But that's kind of that's kind of the list. And you take that into account. You look at this division. They're about approximately 4.5 games out of the wild card right now. The division race is a little bit more problematic where the Cubs sit, but they can make up ground over the weekend. And it's all doable. Nothing's insurmountable. So you look at that and you have to think that Nick Krall is going to make a push somewhere along the way here. Now, we've been saying that it's just a little early to go out and do the thing and go out and get the guy. But it's getting closer. And I think the Reds need to start getting their mindset. They need to continue to turn this corner. They've looked better offensively. They're scoring more than 4 runs a game. The bullpen's really got to dig in. That's really what's got to happen. They have led in so many games that the bullpen has let get away from them that it's really the difference in the season right now. So if you go out and you get that bullpen arm to bolster things, and I know everybody's going to start talking about Alexis Diaz. That was not the answer. Man, talk about falling fast, Alexis Diaz. But you got to go out and get that arm. You go out and you get that arm. You bolster the A group of this team. You take a little bit of pressure off of the guys that are in that A group right now. Maybe you go out and get a guy that can be at a minimum closer 1B with Emilio Pagan. Take some of that pressure off of him. There's a reason why, while he had closing experience, he hadn't been closing. And we're seeing that, right? He has flashes of, he could do this, but then he also has flashes of, let's get somebody else to do this.
Yeah. A little inconsistent. And there, you're probably hearing us and you're thinking, okay, well, you're saying that they should be buyers because they can't be sellers, but that's not all of it. The other part of this is consider what the Reds have gotten from their stars. Consider what the Reds have gotten from the large part of the roster to this point. Yeah, they're hovering around 500 at the moment, but that's so far, Spencer Steer has exactly 0 WAR. You, me, and Spencer Steer have the exact same wins above replacement right now. Matt McClain has been worth negative WAR. And then you also have guys like, we're not seeing Austin Hayes as much as we hoped we would. And Tyler Stephenson is still getting going. He's got 0.3 WAR. These are the types of dudes that are getting going right now. Matt McClain off this list, but I still kind of have hope, as much as we talked about him yesterday, maybe going down to AAA and figuring it out. I think he's going to figure it out at some point this season, however that happens, if he's platooned, if he's sent down, whatever. But that's without these guys performing to what we know they can do, and they're still hovering around 500. So we have been looking at it recently as, man, they're missing a lot of opportunities. But at the same time, they've got a lot of guys that are underperforming. And I feel like when they get going, which is going to be sooner rather than later, you add one more bat, and it doesn't have to be like a Teoscar Hernandez type dude. It could be a Jesus Sanchez from the Miami Marlins. And then if you look at the bullpen, like you mentioned, and you add help there, I'm feeling really good about how this team can make a run, because they're doing exactly what we said they should do. They're scoring over 4.5 runs a game, and they're hovering around 500 during this tough stretch of ball games. And it just doesn't seem like this is a team that is falling apart right now.
No, and it puts us into the territory of having to adopt that philosophy that Nick Krall accidentally said out loud a couple times, which was like, well, we need to get healthy and see what we have. Terrible marketing there. And then, getting so-and-so back, or so-and-so turning it around, is just as good as a trade, right? Like, if Elly starts playing like superstar Elly, well, it's like they went out and made a trade. If Tyler Stephenson is really now back to being Tyler Stephenson, if Spencer Steer is now back to being Spencer Steer, well, it's like they upgraded the lineup, right? Well,
that's not what we're saying. We say
that's
they need
like
more on top of that.
That's like the lazy way out of the conversation, right? But those are all true. This is if Spencer, just taking Spencer Steer and Tyler Stephenson, if those two guys start playing like them, and Elly is doing Elly things, this is a dramatically different lineup than it was in April. And that's why I'm not ready to give up on them, because you look at those guys and what they're starting to do. I talked about this with Ty Steve a few shows back, where I was like, take him to get hits tomorrow, and he went out and hit that bomb, right? So you could kind of see
ever since too.
You could kind of see from his at bats, he's right there, and then he went off, right? So and I think we're seeing the same thing with Elly. He's starting to see the ball better. He's starting to hit with a little bit more power. The bat speed is there. I expect the same thing from him. And Spencer Steer has looked like the Spencer Steer that we have been counting on him to be all along. I think he's finally back with us. Thank goodness. So I'm still bullish on this team. And I know that's crazy when you look at the standings and you look at the Cubs and you look at everything that's happening. And is that gut? Is that homerism? I don't know. But I'm not talking out of the side of my mouth either. Like, these things that I'm saying, I believe that this team can compete still, but they do need to go get a couple parts.
Well, and you mentioned a few moments ago, you mentioned Alexis Diaz, and I think Alexis Diaz is another stark example of don't overvalue your prospects. And this team does this. Quite frankly, I think most major league teams do this, but the Reds do this what feels like more frequently than other teams do, where it seems as though they've got the chance to upgrade their roster as long as they're okay trading away X player, but they're not okay trading away X player. So they miss that chance. And then down the road, they realize, yeah, hindsight's 2020, sure. But there's been plenty of examples over the past 5-6 years, not even long period of time, that you can say, look, the Reds missed an opportunity here. Don't miss this opportunity. The Reds aren't quite where they were in 2023, where they were in first place just a couple of days after the trade deadline, and they didn't do anything back then to help the team either, but they missed that opportunity. Don't miss this one. You can't do anything about the past. You can do something about the present.
Yeah, the prospect hoarding has become a thing, and I think I've been guilty of it. You've been guilty of it. We've been, the Reds were so bad for a stretch there that really all we had to really look forward to and talk about was to hype up these young guys coming through the system. And I think that there was one part of the Castellinis like being terrified to trade away anybody with name recognition, trade away anybody that the fan base might be excited that was coming. And then the second piece of that is, I think from a front office standpoint, they were terrified to trade somebody away that then became a superstar, right? Because this team couldn't afford that. And you take those two things into account and their prospect hoarding, and they've really missed on some deals. I hope that that's changing. My philosophy has changed. You heard me say it yesterday, day before, that I don't care who they trade, not name Chase Birds. Trade everybody else if it brings some improvement to this team and gets them into the postseason. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. That's what I hope that they go do, because the Reds should absolutely be buyers. Now, the lineup took a turn for the worse because Austin Hayes has returned to the IL, and we're going to talk about what the cleanup spot should look like coming up next.
There's not a day that goes by that I don't start it with at least one cup of coffee, maybe two. And honestly, let's be real, I probably get into the 3-4 cup range because I love coffee, and all the coffee at the grocery store was starting to kind of taste the same until I found Trade Coffee. Trade Coffee works with a bunch of different roasters all around the country to bring you the absolute best coffee that you can buy. And what they do is they have this sort of like quiz thing on their website that asks you your flavor preferences and asks you your beverage preferences, and they tailor the coffee to you. And they've got all these amazing flavors. I mean, I've had bright and fruity, I've had dark and kind of chocolatey. I mean, you get all the different top roasts that you can think of because they have so many different options with over 50 of the country's top roasters. And right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off a 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/LockedOnMLB. That's DRINKTRADE.com/LockedOnMLB for 50% off your 1-month trial.
Make sure you're subscribed. That way you don't miss any of the great Reds content we've got coming for you. Jeff and I, 5 days a week here on the Locked On Reds podcast. We've got Tim Daniel live after each and every game, all 162, to break down what you just saw. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of that. All right, Jeff. Once again, Austin Hayes has returned to the IL. He took a mean foul ball off his foot. The guy just can't catch a break, or maybe he's trying to catch a break. Pun intended. The guy is oft injured right now, and that's through his fault. Foul balls to your feet happen. That's why everybody wears all that gear now. But it means the Reds are without what has become kind of the engine of the lineup in Austin Hayes in the cleanup spot. So what do they do from here? I guess we can wildly speculate, but I would love to see that they just stick Tyler Stephenson in there while he suddenly got hot and see what happens. That would be my answer to the cleanup spot. While he hasn't hit for a lot of power yet, that swing is looking really, really good, and I think the power is coming. He's got 3 home runs now, 37 to go, baby, and I think Ty Steve is the answer here.
Yeah, I know that immediately the very first game after Hayes was put on the IL in Chicago, Gavin Lux hit cleanup, which was what happened before Austin Hayes was healthy and ready to go. So it kind of feels like Terry Francona's almost like stuck in a rut there. I'm with you. I think he should change it up, either Stevenson or Spencer Steer. I'm okay with either one of those guys, just because I feel like Spencer Steer's got his clutchness back, right? Like he's got that ability to drive in the run when you need it. And we've seen it a lot here recently. I think we will continue to see it because that's who Spencer Steer is. Spencer Steer, as much as we talk about, who's going to be the Tony Perez of this lineup, he's the closest one, I think. So I think he would be a good option as well. But I think like the cleanup spot is an interesting discussion when it comes to Austin Hayes and who the Reds have and without him. And the other sad discussion, especially since the subject of Thursday's episode was get rid of Garrett Hampson and Connor Joe, is the right-handed platoon of both corner outfield spots now are Garrett Hampson and Connor Joe. So I really want Rece Hinds to replace one of them, but you certainly can't get rid of both of them right now.
I struggle, Jeff, to look around the roster right now and try and understand what the Reds front office is seeing in Rece Hinds that says, Garrett Hampson, that's the guy. we want to put out there. Not Rece Hinds, Garrett Hampson. Connor Joe is our dude, not Rece Hinds. It almost feels Nick Senzel treatment style. I don't understand what they're doing. Like, have they decided that they've seen enough already? I mean, I haven't seen enough. I don't think you've seen enough to form an opinion, but they're treating him almost like they've seen enough.
And we're not saying that we already have Rece Hinds up in the, yes, this guy's one of the best players on the team category. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is he has the potential to be there. I've seen some good plays. You've seen some good plays. We've seen some bad plays from him. I mean, I can remember the fly ball that he played in Atlanta where he took 2 steps forward instead of 2 steps back. And then it was over his head and he tried to, jump back and catch it and totally missed it. That was annoying, yes, but I can also think of a couple of throws that he has made that have told us exactly what we hoped we'd see from him, and that is he's got a cannon for an arm, and right now nobody else in the outfield does. And so give me that dude. Like Connor Joe, Garrett Hampson don't have cannons for arms. Give me that dude. Connor Joe, Garrett Hampson don't have the power that Rece Hinds has. And I get it. Rece Hinds strikes out a lot. But so does a lot of people on this team. And quite frankly, so do a lot of people in Major League Baseball now. It's just a thing they do. And teams almost kind of gloss over it unless you're like striking out 50% of the time. So I really think that we should see more from Rece Hinds. But yeah, you're right. Like there's something that the Reds are privy to that we are not, that they're sort of making that decision on.
I don't understand it. And Jake Fraley's back now. So, I think that might help a little bit depending on which version of Jake Fraley shows up. But looking at this, the cleanup spot, the lineup, I think for me, Jeff, if we're talking about a left-handed pitcher on the mound, I am going TJ Friedl. I'm going Spencer Steer. I'm going Elly De La Cruz. I'm going Tyler Stephenson. And then if it's a righty, I work Gavin Lux in there somewhere. Maybe you scoot things around a little bit. I don't like Lux in the 4 spot. Now, I know there was a time when he was doing that with consistency. He was hitting, but he has not really shown any power, and he doesn't really strike me as an RBI threat per se. He's more of a get-on-base guy right now, which, I mean, but I just think Ty Steve's the right choice, and I would be open to Steer, although his power numbers haven't quite been there either. But if his swing continues to do what it's been doing, and he really does look good and comfortable, maybe the power is coming as well. But those would be my choices. I don't have a scenario where I'm like, yeah, let's go ahead and just slot Lux in there. I want it to either be Stevenson or Steer.
I do like, and especially with Hayes hurt, I kind of like your idea of platooning Lux and Steer in that second spot. Because actually that's the thing when you compare Gavin Lux and Austin Hayes, because Gavin Lux has played 20 games in the cleanup spot, Austin Hayes 28 games in the cleanup spot. Gavin Lux does have Austin Hayes on base percentage. He actually has a better on base percentage than Austin Hayes does. Austin Hayes is better at everything else because the Reds have 5 home runs out of the cleanup spot. Those are all Austin Hayes. And they have 34 RBIs out of the cleanup spot. 21 of those are Austin Hayes. So I just don't think that Gavin Lux is that guy. I want him on base. I don't want him being the guy bringing those on base in. And that's going to be kind of tough because this is one of the biggest weaknesses we said. And I saw there was I'm trying to think of who reported it. I want to say it was John Morosi or John Heyman or one of those guys that said that there is a executive within the Reds front office that begrudges that in the off season, they looked at the lineup and they were worried about it. Why didn't you do anything about it then? Like, come on, like, great. Who wasn't telling this to Nick Krall? Like, this is pretty obvious. They needed one more bat. They needed that cleanup guy, and maybe Austin Hayes is the cleanup guy. So then you put somebody else in like the 5 or the 3 hole or something like that. But they should have got one more bat, and they didn't. And that's frustrating to hear whenever you're like, yeah, no, yeah, we agreed. The lineup looked a little lackluster. Uh-huh.
There's a memo somewhere.
Like who didn't get that email? I don't understand it. But we will be seeing a patchwork here in the cleanup spot and a patchwork. Left-handed lineups I they're going to include Garrett Hampson and Connor Joe, and I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. But you know what I don't hate, Steve? I love eating food at the ballpark, and I'm going to tell you why here in just a moment. There's a new sheriff in town.
Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest products and info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. To join the Trade Master program today, head over to supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, if you use the promo code SH5, you're going to get 5% off your first order. All of that's available over at supplyhouse.com.
If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We're seriously on every single one of them out there. Check us out on the audio side today. Whenever, you can't watch, maybe you're doing your chores, maybe you're working out or something like that, and you really can't focus on a YouTube page, you can listen to us on whatever podcasting app you've got. All right, Steve, I've had a bit of a revelation this year. And honestly, it's something that's been building for a couple of years. I have always been the fry box guy, right? But 50 West, it was an ingenious decision. And quite frankly, I don't know why another Cincinnati brewery didn't do it first. Like there's a couple of other breweries I would have thought would have done this first, but nobody's got burgers like 50 West got burgers, and they got burgers in the ballpark, man. I mean, they got the regular burger and they got the Kansas burger with a little bit of barbecue sauce on there, some bacon, cheese, of course, but that tastes amazing in a day. And they had a special time thing. And if anyone in the concession area is listening right now, please bring back that pretzel burger thing. I wanted it, and I walked up and they didn't have any. And so I had to get the regular burger, which the regular burger is fantastic. But 50 West all day, every day. If I got to eat at the ballpark, that's my favorite thing.
I'm sure people right now are going, what are you guys doing? Why are we talking about food? Because it's Saturday and we're hungry and we can.
Yes.
And food makes us happy, and the Reds not so much.
And maybe
right
informative
now.
if
So,
you've never been to Great American.
And if you've not, I'll tell you,
yeah.
You took my number one, because 50 West is actually my go-to. And you know this, I make a beeline for over there if we haven't already eaten across the street. So 50 West is my go-to.
A good selection of 50 West beers there as well.
Right. I also, the tried and true, Montgomery Inn, barbecue smokehouse at the end of down the right field line. That's my old go-to. It's my number 2 on my list. I try and go to the places that I don't necessarily get around the stadium. So you won't find me at the Skylines and the Chick-fil-A's and the things like that. It's nice that they're there. And I know people love that stuff, and having it right there at the ballpark, being able to grab a coney or whatever. But I'll get that elsewhere. I'll get that when I'm not at the stadium. I like that big old burger from 50 West, and then head over to our standee spot with a burger and a beer and get settled in for the game. That's kind of my jam. I've never been as big on Fry Box as you are, but they do have some good stuff over there. But I'm going to tell you that after you've had your burger and after you've had your beer, one tradition that must always remain, one visit you must always make, one stop at a concession you must always have towards the end of the game is ice cream in a helmet. It's been that way since age 5. So you got to get your ice cream in a helmet after you've had your burger and your beer.
I definitely love getting the ice cream, and they've got a couple of different like UDF spots. I also saw a new thing this year, and this is a bit of a different spin, because you and I mean, we always have our nice cold beverages, but if you're taking your significant other to the ballpark, I got another good option for you, because they're at the UDF market there at the main entrance, the main gate. they actually have carafes of wine. Like you can get a bottle and you pour it in the carafe. You got a couple of glass, or not glasses. I think they're just, plastic cups or whatever, but they're nicer setup so that you can have yourself like a nice little fancy day at the ballpark. Look, I think every so often we all deserve to treat ourselves a little bit, and you can treat yourself at the ballpark now too with a wine carafe from the UDF, the market there at the main gate. Honestly, they should just hire me.
Is this how you get Hannah out to the?
Sessions.
Is this how you get Hannah out to the ballpark? Is this?
Fun fact, she loves baseball. Yeah, no, she doesn't really much like any other sport, but she does love baseball, and she likes.
I want to talk about one more area because this is also meant to be insightful for people that don't get to Great American Ballpark a lot. If you're going to GABP and you really want to treat yourself, grab a couple tickets in Handlebar. You will not be sorry that you did, because the food up there is amazing. It's not your typical ballpark stuff, although they do have some of that, but they have a nicer selection. They've had poke bowls while I'm up there. They've had pot stickers.
No Pokemon, but poke bowls. Yeah,
poke bowls. They've had the pot stickers. I'm not sure what you guys call them, but we call them pot stickers here.
Yeah, pot stickers.
They've got all kinds of great food. They got sliders up there,
chicken wings, yeah.
It comes with 6 drink tickets as well if you're into that. It's a great spot for not a lot of money, and it's one of my favorite spots when I'm trying to mix it up a little bit out at Great American Ballpark, because the food is so good, the staff is so good, and especially when it's hot and it's July, you can get into the AC when you need to.
And I still find people, and it's not as much of a secret as it was a couple of years ago, but I still find people that don't know about this deal, that if you get there a little bit early before first pitch, I'm not talking like when the gates open, but like between when the gates open and first pitch, there's the Budweiser Garden Bar that if you go in the Hall of Fame entrance, it's right there in front of you. If you go in the main entrance, it's like to your right a little bit, catty corner to your right. The Budweiser Garden Bar has the happy hour deal that up until first pitch, a 16 ounce, so like a good sized beer, I think it's 16 ounces, it might even be 18 ounces, is $6. Now it used to be $5, but inflation, darn it. It's up to $6 now, but that's still better than any price you're going to get for any beer in the ballpark, let alone this is a tall one. This is not like a short beer. This is a tall beer for either Budweiser or Bud Light. And I think they also sell the Busch cans for $6 there, and that happy hour deal as well. But that's a great spot to hit as you're leaning into the game. There's a couple of new food items. The first one, I haven't tried it yet because, quite frankly, I just don't know. Like, in theory, us sitting here doing our podcast right now, this sounds amazing to me. The Big Mott's. You seen the Big Mott's?
Mm-hmm.
It's a chicken parm with cheese sticks on it. Like, that sounds amazing sitting in the comfort of my own home. When I'm outside, I don't know about that. That sounds real heavy, and that's the reason that I haven't tried that yet.
It sounds like a nap in a recliner is what it sounds like to me, Jeff. Yeah. Like I'm with you. That one sounds much more like an at-home item versus at the ballpark kind of item. GABP has stepped up their game. The last few seasons, things have evolved a little bit where the food selection has gotten a little bit better. I think that they still have a ways to go. As you and I both travel around the country, seeing the other stadiums, we have encountered a couple places that their food game is San Francisco is a game ballpark food. San Diego. Listen, maybe it's a West Coast thing because San Diego and the tacos in the ballpark are chef's kiss. So there's a little work. There's a little work to do in Cincinnati.
Pretty good too.
But they're getting there. They're getting there.
Even the White Sox Stadium is kind of underrated.
Both San Francisco and San Diego blow the doors off of Dodger Stadium, just in case anybody is wondering.
I haven't been to Dodger Stadium yet. And Angel Stadium does, like those two, the LA stadiums kind of fight against the Giants and the Padres stadiums, not only just because, division stuff, except for the Angels, but because of food. Like, I mean, San Diego, San Francisco, top tier. I haven't been to a Dodgers game, but I know that the Angel Stadium, it was just okay. The Angel Stadium and the Reds are like right there, same level of food. Agree with that. First time where I tried a canned michelada, and I did not like a canned Michelada. I prefer that being made for me, not a can.
All right, Jeff, that's enough of this. I'm ready to go eat. This has been a fun one. And thanks for indulging us, guys. We just needed to talk about something fun on this Saturday.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us on a weekend edition because of the wonky schedule, but it's fun to talk baseball with you guys. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is. We're going to be back in your feeds regular schedule next week, Monday through Friday. Jeff and I on the Locked On Reds podcast, Tim Daniel, every single game postcast talking about Reds baseball. We're going to keep gathering up the news, the notes, the information, and the reports to keep you locked on Reds every single day. I need a snack.
Yep, I'm going to go get some food right now.